All right, so here we go, you guys. Let's dive into this fun training on the follow-up. So we have had such excellent training and ideas so far, and you guys are totally diving in, and it's so fun. So you're adding people to the product page, you're reaching out to your list, you're posting on Facebook, you're getting inquiries about what you're doing, and then there's this question of how to follow up. And don't we love it when people first hear about Isogenics, they hear what we have to offer, hey Cheryl, and they decide to join us right away. We love when that happens. But the majority of people don't join right away, hey Alicia, and they require some follow-up, some layering, some more information, some time. And so that is where the follow-up comes in, because most of our enrollments are going to come through the process of following up. It's really important to pay attention to it. But what I found in my own journey and through working with many of you and so many people, that sometimes we don't follow up. You know what I mean? And if you have some ideas of why you don't follow up, or why some people hypothetically might not follow up, go ahead and show me some comments. But what I found, some people are afraid of rejection. So they assume the no. When we assume the no, we might not want to follow up. We don't want to bother people. We are conditioned to speak when spoken to, and so we're in this conditioned state of not wanting to reach out first. If you guys have some more, go ahead and type it in there. What are some reasons why sometimes you drop the ball on follow-up, or why some people maybe on your team, or just in general, why do you think some people don't? Sometimes it's because people are, they've already told us no once. Thanks, Donna. Afraid I'm bugging them. That was a big one for me in the beginning. Don't want to bug them too much. Afraid they're going to be annoyed with me. Sometimes it's ego. Well, I have the gift, so they can come to me when they're ready. And where there is some value in having that posture, we can't just sit back and wait like that. So that's good. Afraid of success. Tasha, that's very insightful. Sometimes we're afraid of our own success. Not sure of their why. That's a good one, Cheryl. Sometimes we're not aware of their why. We don't know their why. Sometimes we assume their why. And maybe someone has stopped responding. That's right. Whenever this happens, maybe they stop responding and we're following up. Or maybe we're afraid of the no. If you think about it, all of these reasons why we don't follow up have to do with a story that we've made up in our mind. It's something that hasn't even happened yet, but it's a story that we've made up, and typically it has to do with me. It has to do with us. It has to do with how I'm feeling, right? Same here. Everyone's raising their hand. We understand these feelings, right? When we're thinking about us, about what they're going to think about me, how I'm going to feel when they say no, that can keep us from following up. But I want you to sit back and acknowledge pure fear, absolutely. Acknowledge those fears, acknowledge those thoughts, become aware of those stories that you've created in your head, and decide if you're going to write a story anyway, if you're going to create these stories in your head anyway, why not create a new story? Why not create a positive story, right? Sometimes we occasionally might have one or two bad experiences where maybe somebody really didn't like that we followed up with them. And so we tend to want to avoid that so much that we then avoid following up at all, right? Or we assume it's going to happen, or maybe it's even an event from our past that doesn't even have anything to do with Isogenics, but that has conditioned us to play small, to not reach out, to assume we're going to bug people. And so because the majority are just stories, why not reframe it? So why not recognize that if they say no, it just means not yet. It just means not now. Recognize that we have the gift, right? We do have a gift, and we're just the delivery person. We're not responsible for their yes or no. We're just responsible for delivering the gift and giving them the choice. That is it. So when we follow up, think of it as when our follow-up is giving the people who want to say yes the opportunity to do so, right? Because how many times have you genuinely intended or wanted to buy something, maybe from another salesperson, a friend, or a store, and maybe it just naturally slipped out of your mind, but it's because that company sent you an email, or maybe that salesperson followed up again and again that you actually bought it. I mean, I can think right now, there was a person I met randomly on Facebook, and she sold some other product like office supplies, and I had every intention of buying them from her, and she did a great job of following up once or twice, but then she didn't anymore, and I told her I was going to buy. I just didn't get around to it yet. I was in a moment and feeling disorganized, but I kind of forgot her name because I didn't know her anyway. If she follows up with me again, I'm going to buy. But she hasn't followed up yet. So when you're approaching people, think of those people like me. Think people are ready to buy. They're just looking for that reason to say yes, right? Because we've also all had that experience of following up with somebody and say, yes, now I'm ready. And what if we hadn't followed up? We wouldn't have found that person. So again, we're not trying to avoid the no's, we're trying to find the yeses, and we're not attached to what they decide. We are the opportunity creators. We're creating the opportunity for them to make a decision, and then we're creating additional opportunities for them to say yes, to ask questions, and for us to be the tour guides to guide them through the information. Okay? So now that we have that mindset piece out of the way, we're going to get a little bit into the how-tos and tips. And one thing I wanted to keep you in mind also, when I mentioned earlier that most of your enrollments are going to come from your follow-ups, the reality is over 80% of all sales in any profession, any industry, require 5 or more follow-ups. 5 or more. However, most business owners only follow up 1 or 2 times. In fact, 48% of salespeople never follow up at all. Right? So don't let that be you. Don't let that be us. Enough with the stories exactly long. Thank you. 80% of sales require 5 or more follow-ups. Okay, so we're looking for those. Now, one thing great about our product page is it does some of the dripping information for us. In a sense, that is kind of like a follow-up. But the follow-up, sincerely, is a connection of you with that person, specifically one-on-one, asking them for more information. People are really waiting for you to say yes. And I'm out of focus. I'll try to fix that. Thanks, babe. But if we don't ask, someone else will. If we don't, they're ready to say yes. So we're looking for the people who are ready to say yes. So I'd like to start by sharing the timing, because this is sometimes where we get hung up the most, is the timing. How often? When do I say yes? Don't be that non-follow-upper. I love that, Tim. Thank you. So here, I'm going to give you 3 ways to guide your timing in your follow-up, and I'm going to work some examples in here as well, okay? So the first way to manage your timing of follow-up is to have a system. Hey, Janelle. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, everybody. Glad you're on. So to have a system means that you have in mind a certain amount of time that you're regularly going to follow up with people. And the benefit of having a system is that you know when you follow it, nobody's going to slip through the cracks. So for example, whenever you add somebody to the product page, because they've expressed an interest in learning about the products, you've added them in, you've given them a welcome post, and probably an initial video or 2. One way to follow up would then be in 1 to 2 days, go back and add an additional video. Just plan to do that. It can be the you share, they share, repeat. It can be any additional video that you think might be a benefit to them. And also, when I do a follow-up video, at the same time, I typically also send them a private message or a text, whatever the medium is that we've been using so far in our communication. And I will follow up and ask them questions. And these are some ways that you can follow up. I will say something like, I hope that you've been enjoying the information and the inspiration in the product page. You know, what questions do you have about the things that you've seen? Or what do you like that you've seen so far? Is there anything I can clarify for you? Are you getting your questions answered? As always, and we've talked about this before, always end with a question. You don't want to list all those questions. Choose one question per follow-up and always end with that question. And so typically, if you have a system, here's an example. You can do that follow-up in 1 or 2 days, and then once a week for 2 weeks, follow-up, and then once a month for 2 months, follow-up, and then once every 6 months after that. That is, honestly, I don't stick to that, but that's kind of in my mind what I have. I don't speak, I'm not religious about that, but that is what I have in mind typically when I follow up with people. If that helps you, work that into your system. If not, just have an idea of how often you're going to follow up so that you have a process for everyone. So there's an example of a system. Have a certain amount of time that you typically follow up. Okay. Another way, which you can use all these at once or different for different people, is to have an appointment. This is easy, and this is actually very professional. Sometimes we resist, especially in the beginning. I felt resistant to making an appointment because I was scared to ask. Just like we're scared to ask for the sale, scared to ask for the appointment. But it's really professional because otherwise, if you don't set an appointment or an intention to follow up, excuse me, then it's kind of just left hanging, and you don't know how long to follow up. So sometimes an appointment can be, they ask specifically, I'm not ready now, but follow up with me at the end of the month, or at the beginning of the year, or at the end of the summer. They'll tell you a specific time. So then you mark it on your calendar and do it. Another way, if you've ever been on a 3-way call with me, you know that I do this. Or if you're on a call yourself, whenever I end, and if they're not ready to make a decision now, and they don't have any, specific questions that I'm directing them towards, they just want to think about it, they want to look at some information, they want to talk with their spouse, then I will ask them, when would be a good time for me, or the person that I'm on the 3-way call with, when would be a good time for me to get back with you after you've had a chance to fill in the blank, whatever it is that they're going to do. After you have a chance to talk to your husband, after you have a chance to look at the information, do your research, think about it. And I always ask this very openly. When would be a good time for me to get back with you after you've had a chance to do this? Because in our minds, again, we're making up stories. And sometimes when we hear them say, oh, I want to think about it, I want to do my research, sometimes we hear a no. And so we get off the phone and we're like, okay, so what do I do now? Do I follow up with them in a couple months? Do I follow up with them tomorrow? I don't know. But sometimes it's surprising what they'll say. When I ask, when was a good time to get back with you after you've had a chance to do this? They might say later tonight. Right? You don't know what they mean until you ask. They might say, oh, call me on Friday. Or, when would be a good time for me to get back with you after you've had a chance to blank? Oh, 3 months from now. So if you just ask that openly, it gives you an insight into their brain of what they're truly thinking without your stories getting in the way. Okay? So that's an appointment. It can be uncomfortable asking for the appointment, but it's a lot less uncomfortable than leaving it wide open and then not knowing. And then that's when you do feel like you're bugging them because you have no idea. Did they intend for you to follow up in the same day or the next week or 6 months or 3 years, or was that really a no? But if you ask when it would be a good time, then you have permission to follow up with them. All right, good. I appreciate your hearts. I'm glad this is helping you guys. This is stuff that, gosh, I've learned the hard way. I've had a lot of uncomfortable moments in following up. Okay, so I promised you 3 to adjust your timing. So the third is for a promotion or an event. And this is perfect timing because if you guys haven't seen already, at the time of this video, tomorrow the chocolate mint seasonal shakes are coming back. So this would be an opportunity, or a webinar, or an event like we have here in Savannah on Saturday, or a discount, free enrollment, a new product, any specific reason like that, an event, a new product, a promotion. That would be a time that you can step aside from your system or your appointments to follow up. And you can say something like, I know that we just talked, but I'm really excited that I just learned this, and I just had to let you know right away. Okay, and if you're excited about it, that'll come through. Or I know that we weren't planning to talk again until next month, but I just learned that this new shake is coming out, and it's one of my favorites, or I've heard it's one of the best, and I just had to let you know because it's going to sell it really quick. So that would be another opportunity to follow up. Or you know what? I know you've been thinking about this for a while, and it hasn't been your time yet. However, this webinar is coming up tomorrow night, and I believe it's going to be an awesome opportunity to learn more about the products from people who have been successful in using them or successful in doing the business, whatever's interest to that person. And I think you'd find value in being on the call. Would you be available to watch if I sent you the link? All right, if I would you, this is the same as reaching out to your list. If I sent you the link, would you watch the webinar? So that's another tool, again, that you can use in your follow-up. So again, the 3 ways to regulate your timing of follow-up. First is to have a system that you know you're going to follow up with people. The second is to have an appointment, end every correspondence with an intention. When would be a good time for me to follow up with you after you've had a chance to blank. Okay, and 3 is for promotion, special event, new product, seasonal shake, etc., etc. Okay, and then I just want to throw in a few little tips. First of all, remember there's always the option to break away. And Christy, I see you just joined, but I know you were on before, so I think you might be at swimming lessons. But it reminded me of our discussion before, and you'd heard on the start talks, and we both used this successfully, is if you've been following up with a person for a while and you've heard nothing, and especially if in the beginning they expressed a sincere interest to learn more and to want to start, and they've just kind of disappeared for a while, one way that you can follow up is to take it away from them. And to do this, I prefer for them to hear my voice because I want them to hear the sincerity of it. So rather than type it out, I will usually use Messenger. Did you know that in Messenger you can record your voice and have a 1-minute voice message or less? It's really cool. So you open Messenger, you instead of doing the ABC buttons to the type, you actually find the microphone and you hold the button down and you talk to it. And I do the takeaway, and I'll say something like, hey Susie, I hope you're doing great. I love seeing your family on Facebook. Hey, I was just checking back to see if you changed your mind about Isagenix because I hadn't heard from you for a while. And if you have, that is totally okay, but please just let me know, because then I'll stop sending you all of these updates on the promotions and new products. I certainly don't want to bug you. But if you are still interested, I did want to let you know that there's a promotion today. There's a new product coming out, whatever the situation is. And so I wanted you to be one of the first to know. So I hope you're doing great, and take care. And I'll just leave it like that. And that gets really good response. Usually if people still have an interest, they'll message back right away, say, oh no, I'm still interested, it just hasn't been the right time, I have this and this and this and this and this and this going on, which that gives you some insight. That's good. But you can also do the same thing in the product page, which is I think what Christy and I talked about, and she was sharing with me how you can do a similar thing and say, hey, I hope you're still enjoying the product page, but I was checking if you changed your mind about it, I'd be glad to take you out of the product page if it doesn't interest you anymore, so you don't get that in your newsfeed anymore. If not, let me know. So that's another way that you can hear back from people. So that's one trick that you can use. I also wanted to touch on the medium that you use, whether it's text or messenger or phone. And in general, I love for them to hear the energy in my voice, and I know that you will have more impact if you're able to portray your voice. So over the phone is always great. However, I know in our changing times that people aren't answering their phone as much, so usually a text first and then the phone, or like I was sharing with you, the voice messages on Messenger are really, really powerful. But in general, use whatever medium that you started the conversation with or that they seem to respond the most to. So meet people where they're at. So any medium is really fine. Okay, and then final tip, and then I'm going to open up for questions. So get ready to ask your questions after this. So, and this goes back to the mindset piece about feeling like you're bothering somebody. Always approach it from a standpoint of adding value to them. And sometimes that can be an actual tangible thing. Maybe you read an article that reminds you of them and you just want to send it to them without even asking about Isagenix. But in a way, that's a follow-up. It shows that you're thinking about them, especially if it's something health-related, and you just send it to them. So your follow-up can look like that. But even if it's not something tangible like that, even if you're following up in one of the ways that we discussed here, where you're asking them, what questions do you have? If you have the posture of always adding value to them, because we are adding value and offering this to them, and in the inviting them to this community that we have, this very supportive, life-changing community, always be in a spirit of adding value to other people, and that'll help you relax and to really connect with them and put them first and not feel like you're bugging them, not feeling like it's all about you, not feeling like it's the stories in your head. You'll be more aware of what they're saying. Yes, thank you, Misty. It makes it more personal. Listen to what they're saying, and then you're able to relax and truly add value to them and to fulfill a need if Isagenix is a solution of a problem that you hear that they need a solution for. All right. So that's a follow-up training for tonight, and I hope that was valuable. If you have questions, go ahead and start typing them in, and I'll be sure to answer them. Perhaps any situations in particular where you're not sure what to do, or you'd like clarification on anything that I shared tonight. Great. Okay, so Donna asked, do you keep a list and information about each person that you've reached out to? That's a great question. In the beginning, I did. In fact, if you get out my first notebook that I ever had, you'll see my list of people, and then I start to jot notes in about each one. But I honestly don't anymore, because I find that our correspondence typically is in Messenger, or it's in text. It's on my phone. So if I have somebody I want to follow up with, I'll just go and read through our text to remind me about them. If it's on the phone, I keep all notes on all my phone calls in my notebook. So I will do that. But I don't have a chart or anything that shows specifically, but I just have, history of all of our conversations in Messenger and in text, and then my written word on our phone calls. But if it helps you to have a system, I'd say go for a system. I just couldn't keep up with that. It was too much writing for me. All right, Tasha says, I've heard say, is morning good or would afternoon be better? However, Eric Worry just says, just ask when would be a good time to follow up. What do you like to say? Okay, so great question. So there's two ways to approach. This is the appointment when we're talking about setting the appointment. So whenever, the example I gave was, when would be a good time for me to get back with you? And that will give me a time frame. And then from there, I think as a next step, I would do what you're saying, Tasha, is great. Is morning or afternoon better for you? After, the intention of that first question is to get a time frame. And then once you're deciding on the day or the time, always give choices. So, is daytime or evening better for you? Morning or afternoon? As you're narrowing down, give choices. Is 3 or 5 better for you? So definitely, as you're pinpointing the appointment, offer choices. But I think when is a good time for you is a good initial question to kind of narrow it down. Great question, Tasha. Thanks. Cheryl says, can you please repeat how long to wait when someone types a response of, thanks, but I'd like time to think about it, and then they don't respond to the next appointment question? That's great. And, honestly, I didn't say this before, but a lot of it is your intuition. A lot of it is your gut. A lot of it is your relationship with them. And just, sometimes God just puts somebody on your heart. It's time to reach out to them, and you just do it. Okay, so keep that in mind in all of this. But, if they say they'd like to take time to think about it, that would have, in context, I would have to look at their other language around it, because that might be their way out of really just saying no. But if they say, I'd like time to think about it, I would probably follow up with a question right away. Say, great, is there any information specifically I can send to you to think about it that'll help you? And then I would follow up with the question, how long would you like to think about it? When can I follow up? If not, if it's somebody, again, it depends on where it is in the process. Like I was saying before, I would do, once a week for 2 weeks, once a month for 2 months, and then once every 6 months after that. So if you have a system like that, drop them into that system if they stop responding. And you just never know. Sometimes I'll write to somebody after a year and they didn't respond. Or, today I received a message from somebody that I'd found on Facebook. She's an old friend. I'd sent her a friend request. She'd never accepted my friend request, but today she accepted it and wrote me to ask for information in the same time. So, people might be ignoring you, but they're actually thinking about you. So, hope that goes. Boatload of awesome. Thanks, Long. Glad that was good. And I have no video. Oh, Billy, I'm so sorry. I hope Facebook Live will come back on for you so you can see us again. Tasha, I can see that you've been reading Eric Worre and GoPro. Tasha says, I like how Eric Worre says to ask to confirm the appointment. Ask them. So if I call you at Tuesday at 3 o'clock, will you have watched the video for sure? Eric Worre, if you haven't read that book yet, GoPro by Eric Worre is a handbook to our profession of network marketing. It's brilliant. And that is one way to confirm after you have the time to follow up. So when I call you at this time, you'll have watched it for sure. For sure, for sure. Right? So if you add those words on there, that'll help. Billy says, I'm back. Awesome. Great questions, you guys. Thanks. Any other questions? There's a little bit of a delay here, so I'll wait to make sure we have everything. But this was fun tonight. Your GoPro is awesome. If you want to come with us to the GoPro Network Marketing Recruiting Mastery event in Vegas, it's coming up in November. Several of us have tickets already. Christy Dunner's listening to the GoPro audio. Awesome. So listen to Eric Worre's scripts on how he follows up, and that's brilliant. All right, last call for our training tonight. Yes, come with us. It's going to be a blast. Come with us to Vegas. We're going to Vegas for sure for celebration, and then we're going in November. All right. Well, this was a fun training tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, go ahead and type them in the comments as well. And I'll try to keep an eye on it and be sure to come back and answer them. But this has been about follow-up. You're so welcome. Thank you guys for being on here. This is fun for me. Repeat. Okay, one more time. Repeat how often to follow up. You can choose your own system. Here's my example. You add somebody to the product page. Repeat a video, follow up in 1 to 2 days with a video. And then follow up once a week for 2 weeks, once a month for 2 months, and then once every 6 months following that. All right? Great. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Long. In the flow. Huge compliment, as Jeffrey Combs would say. Appreciate that so much. You guys are awesome. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Happy following up. Let's make it an awesome week, especially. Remember tomorrow, new shakes. It's a good reason to follow up today and tomorrow and this week. All right? Appreciate it. Good night, everyone.